Welcome to Lit History, where people can listen to me yap about history and literature and how the two connect. So last night my friends and I went to see the Christopher Nolan adaptation of the Odyssey. This was basically like my Super Bowl. I'm going to break this down into an easy list, 3 points. Things I liked, things I didn't like, and the accuracy behind it. Get excited. Disclaimer, there will contain spoilers. Not that many, but if that's not what you're looking for, totally understandable. Go watch it and come back. Before I get into this, I would like to say, A, I am not a director. B, I am not a historian. I love film, I love history. So I want to acknowledge this is an amateur perspective. All right, let's go. Things I liked. First off, loved it. Oh my God, overall, I thought it was incredible. And I know they changed some things and some people have had an issue with the accuracy. We'll get to that more later, but I would like to say that I think they did a really good job at staying close to the novel while still making it interesting. The reason I started this channel is because I wanted to make history and really complex literature more digestible for everyone, because everyone should be fascinated in it. It's so interesting. But you can't just start at this level. You know, you have to have an entry point. Mine was Overly Sarcastic Productions. So a lot of the changes they made I thought were honestly good because it made it more enjoyable for the masses, and so then more people are getting excited about the Odyssey. And I saw it with a group of friends, and 2 of them out of the group were like, I'm gonna go home and read it now. So thank you, Christopher Nolan. Second off, the film is so beautiful. So beautiful. The way he made it look just felt like movie magic. It made the movie feel magical in the way that I think the really hyper-realistic ones don't always do. Nolan also managed the temporal state of the story really well. You know, it's kind of an unusual timeline because it's like the timeline actually starts at the end portion of Odysseus' journey, but after he gets off Calypso's island and he goes to another island and talks to the ruler, he gives him the whole backstory of what happened since they've left Troy. Spoiler, a lot of death. And so it's like Odysseus is telling the backstory, but he's still living in the present, and then also Telemachus is in the present, but then he's trying to explain like how the suitors have been there for so long. It's just can be a lot, and I think he managed to handle that really well. The casting, overall incredible. Like, I'm so picky about who gets cast in the roles of characters I love so much when there's screen adaptations of books. Tom Holland, oh my God, he's so perfect for Telemachus. And also, I feel like they just handled Telemachus' story so well, because like the whole time I'm like, oh my God, Telemachus, do something. Like, come on, be effective. And it's exactly how I felt in the story, so. Oh, and Clytemnestra. Oh my God, that scene, not only was it edited so well, like it made me jump when she comes back and is like ready to stab Agamemnon. It also is just, that actress killed it. Greek mythology has so many women scorned stories where they get revenge on their husbands. Just look at Medea. I think Clytemnestra handled that so well. She was a great representative. The next thing I liked was the gore. The Trojan horse scene. Like, it's really hard to take a story that everyone fucking knows and make it sound unique and interesting. And I was so captivated. I think the way that they portrayed it is just like so gory and terrible is really, really well done. Also, because the Trojan horse is just such a legend, they made it feel very human. And like the gore of the war and how that kind of translates into Odysseus' mind. I never really thought about that, but think about military generals. Like, if you had to go in and destroy Rome, like think of all of the symbolism behind that, and like it represents so much of our civilization, and being told to just destroy that, maybe it's just me, that would be soul crushing. That's Odysseus's kind of mental journey. Like, he went in and he destroyed this age, he destroyed Troy, and it's so representative of this age. Also, just like the guilt for destroying an age. That is true. I'm not gonna go into it too much, especially not until I get into my accuracy section, because I already made a video breaking down the history behind the myth. I think that helped me understand so much more, and like so many of the Easter eggs and all that. The destruction of Troy is one of the big things that caused this civilization to collapse, according to the Iron Age Greeks. It's really beautiful that they brought that element into it, and that's kind of the biggest thing that I loved about it, is just how it implements the history behind it. Christopher Nolan did not have to do that. 9 times out of 10, a Hollywood director would probably not do that extra research, or at least wouldn't think it's relevant to the movie and the script. So the fact that he did Oh my god, beautiful. All right, I was nice. Now time to be me. Things I hated. The casting. Honestly thought Travis Scott and Zendaya did an amazing job. Still, it wouldn't have been my choices. In my mind, the Greek chorus is like a bunch of just old women like sitting around being like, oh, did you hear the stories? And as they're like knitting or I guess weaving, but just a bunch of old spinsters. And then as for Zendaya, I just think that who Athena is and like what she represents, it should be maybe like a middle-aged woman who's just like very like tall and strong. And I think a young woman can't do that to the same extent, not because they're incapable of that strength, but just there's some kind of wisdom that age brings. And I think that's so true when you look at older women, like it's in their eyes. Although I will concede that they made it interesting by making it someone that he killed in this battle. Wouldn't have been my first choice, but I think it was better than I expected them to make it. Again, Zendaya did as great as she possibly could have. Her dress to the event, beautiful. Second, the Calypso scene. I don't know why. It was like the only boring part of the movie. It just kind of felt like a couple who had been married too long, retired early, and they just kind of live at the beach and don't know what to do with themselves. Third thing is the foreign crowds. You know, a lot of the people who are in the background or like the scared masses or somebody who's getting killed by a soldier. And I get why they did that because going from ancient Sparta to wherever Troy would have been, I mean, there is a place where we think Troy actually was. That would have been a crazy journey. You know, you're going halfway across the world, baby. So I get why they use people who speak different languages or, you know, look ethnically different than their main characters. Still, their main characters are white. I think there's an argument to be made for both cases. This is a story, so I get where it's your own interpretation of it. But, like, I feel like if you make your cast all white, or if not all white, then at least predominantly all American, you can't use those foreign crowds. Time to talk about the accuracy. Ooh! They brought in so much history. I was obsessed with it. We've already covered this. I'll stop talking now. Throughout the movie, they reference the sea people a lot. You know, there's a prophecy about how the sea people are going to come in and destroy their lands and whatever. And that's why Telemachus is having these issues with the suitors around. I mean, there's multiple reasons. But they're also making the future of power look really uncertain. They're going to need another king who's strong enough because if the sea people come in, they're dead. The sea people are real, guys. Throughout the prominent states in the Bronze Age, many civilizations have records of the sea people coming in and destroying their lands. This was right along the time when the Bronze Age was collapsing, and there were multiple other reasons. It wasn't just the sea people, but a lot of historians have seen this and think of this as one of the reasons for the collapse. Historians know about the sea people from inscriptions they've found in ancient Egypt and from desperate military correspondence between Ugarit and Cyprus. So we have all these stories about all the cities of the Bronze Age being destroyed by the sea people, but we have no idea who they are. And it's just one of these fascinating mysteries of history. You know, we have guesses, but we'll never know for sure. And it's just such a prevalent part of the Bronze Age collapse, which is so prevalent to the Odyssey, that I thought it was just really beautiful they brought this piece in and really interesting. My next point, I guess I should have put in things I liked, but I guess my list is falling apart like Troy. The settings, while not historically accurate, had a lot of elements from the ruins of the Minoan Palace on Crete. I went there this spring, as you can see in one of my other videos. They have these VR things where you can see kind of what it would have looked like. And the setting in the movie felt very similar to that. The story is also relatively accurate. I think it does a good job at staying close. I already talked about this, but there are obviously some inaccuracies, like Odysseus choosing to go to war. That man did everything he could apart from killing his own child to avoid it. In reality, he pulled a Hamlet and just tried to act crazy. I'm gonna start doing that to get out of things too. Sorry, I can't come into work today because I just had a psychotic break that makes me talk to an imaginary woman who loves spiders. It could work. If you've seen the movie and haven't seen the book, believe it or not, they also dumbed down Odysseus' idiocy. In the Cyclops scene, he doesn't just like shoot him in the eye with an arrow. In the cave, he basically tricks the Cyclops by saying that his name is Nobody, and then it's a whole thing. And then when they get out under the sheep, actually, they like wrap themselves to the sheep and use that as a disguise. They don't like roll out with them. And then once they escape, Odysseus is on the ship and he yells back to the Cyclops and is like, I'm not nobody, I'm Odysseus, bitch. And so then the Cyclops knows who to curse when he talks to his dad. Hey, at least Telemachus never did that. And Odysseus' quote while he's talking to Penelope about the horrors of the war and all that, and he's still in disguise, is so representative of the history, and I think that was just really accurate. Like, he's talking about an entire civilization fall. We were losing years of our life. We lost language. We lost, like, the way that we do things. So true. Because the Mycenaeans and the Minoans, they use something called linear A, and they use some linear B as well. The reason the Greeks had to create this whole story to explain what happened to the Mycenaeans is because they didn't have any records of the Mycenaeans' way of life. After the Bronze Age collapse, many civilizations lost their writing for years and didn't have any written histories of their lives. Their society was in rubble, so you couldn't learn from that either. Except for the Egyptians, of course, which is why they're so awesome. That's basically all I've got. I've just kind of been hyperfixating on this movie ever since I watched it last night, and this will probably last a while. So I wanted to purge some of it by making this video. In conclusion, Christopher Nolan, if you're watching this, great job. Now make the Aeneid.